in an internal letter, which was never meant to be published, but as you know, there's no such thing as an internal letter that doesn't get published. How many employees have you got?
160,000 employees.
Right, so the moment you sent it to 160,000 employees, you knew it was going to be in the press. You said you exhorted Airbus for solidarity and self-reliance for the company at a time of great difficulty for all companies, although you're doing very well at the moment. What did you mean by solidarity and self-reliance?
Well, I think I mean, when it comes to solidarity, is working in a united way with a lot of collaboration in the company. The complexity of problems we have to solve requires involvement of a lot of functions and a lot of people exchanging information, being very fast across the world. Most of the problems we have to solve are really global. So that's for solidarity. And self-reliance means, well, we have to expect the solution to come from us. Don't expect things to be solved by themselves. There's so much to be done. So that was the call for collaboration in the company. That's what I meant.
But if you take the company Airbus, the core, I mean, you're doing remarkably well. The 320 range sells off the floor. I mean, pardon the pun, flies off the shelves. The 350 has been very successful. This is, if it's not exactly a golden age, it's not far off.
It's probably a golden age when it comes to the demand. The traffic is going up. The need for new aircraft, more fuel efficient, more competitive is very strong. So we have a record backlog of aircraft to deliver. But it's a very difficult times when it comes to supply chain. We have 3 million parts on our planes, and you have to make sure that each and every of these 3 million parts arrives on quality, on time. If not, you can't build a plane. And that's what we've been suffering from in the last 5 to 6 years, trying to recover from the challenges of the pandemic in a world that has become much more complex for global business.
Okay, let's do supply chain now then. Why has it been so difficult to rebuild the supply chain? Now, I know that during the pandemic, a lot of these highly qualified engineers or workers went off and did different things at the various suppliers, but they didn't all disappear. And you've had 5 years, or your suppliers have had 5 years to get them back and to rebuild their supply chain. Why is it, I mean, why?
Well, Richard, you're using the word rebuild the supply chain. The supply chain was built over decades.
Right, but where did they all go?
Well, as you know, some companies really went to very low level of productions for 18 months, 2 years during the pandemic. And they let a lot of people go in an industry that remains very much driven by individual skills and experience. So it took a lot of time for some of those companies to rebuild their ability to manage supply chain, to produce at rate, in the right level of quality. There was a lot of transfer of work around the planet given the challenges and the pressure on cost, and then inflation coming from the recent situation. So a lot of things changing in an industry that needs stability.
Do you see the supply chain issues getting appreciably better in the near future?
Well, first, it's got much better last year. 23, 24 were really very difficult. We saw in 25 a lot of problems being solved. Now, as I said earlier, if one of the 3 million parts is missing, you have a problem. So we have to go to the end of the recovery. We continue to ramp up quite quickly. So we continue to pull on the supply chain. We are always putting more
Engines
pressure.
are the big part at the moment.
And I was coming to it today, in 2025 and probably 26 as well, engines have been the most difficult things to get.
I was talking to a CEO of an airline that shall remain nameless, who was going to an air show specifically to put pressure on you and or other suppliers to deliver the planes on time, because he knew that if he made the most noise, the squeaky wheel got the oil.
Well, that reflects the demand and the very strong demand we're in, and the difficulties to deliver on time given the supply chain issues. It's a good problem to have your customers asking for their product. But it's also a challenging one in the industry we're in.
If we talk about global issues, because you said, I mean, the one thing about Airbus and your competitor Boeing is you get hit by global issues, trade, tariffs. What was interesting on the tariff dispute and the current tariff dispute is that after an initial skirmish over aircraft and Delta flying its new planes around in Asia so it didn't have to pay the tariffs and this, that and the other, very quickly both sides agreed that planes were not going to be part of this punitive tariff regime, which speaks to the importance of aircraft.
Well, I was speaking about solidarity and unity and collaboration before. Tariff issue is really a problem that has been solved by speaking a lot, by collaborating both sides of the Atlantic. Actually, we're working in an aviation ecosystem that is very north transatlantic. The US industry depends a lot on the European industry and vice versa. So we quickly all came to the conclusions that tariffs were actually a lose-lose situation, and we've been able to make that point and have the tariffs back to zero. And I think that's better for the world, because there was indeed creating inflation, pressure, tension, and also additional reasons for delays in this industry, which is already under pressure.
Do you think because of the importance of aviation and the fact that you have these two giants, there is an element of mutually assured destruction if you start tariffing each other on planes, that it is sui generis?
Yes, yes.
Defense spending, we're rattling through it because I see we have little time. Defense spending and the ramp up in Europe, how will EADS benefit from that?
Airbus.
Yeah, Airbus. I'm old-fashioned.
Yeah. We changed the name like 10 years ago now.
But how will Airbus, the defense sector?
Yeah, Airbus. We have 20% of our turnover in defense. And actually, with this, we are the largest defense company in the EU. Okay? And we benefit from the growth in defense, from the demand, not only from European countries, but from countries around the world. Security now is really all over the place, and that's an area of focus from virtually all governments. We had record bookings in the Airbus Defence and Space and helicopters coming from defense last year, and we see acceleration in demand. Now, in the part of defense we're in, platforms, complex systems, it takes time to go from order to delivery and to creating turnover, but we're clearly on a growth path in defense and helicopters. And if you add up the growth we have in commercial aviation, actually we're really on a path of growth on all our businesses.
How do you avoid complacency? Because at Airbus Commercial on the civil side, you reached a target that when Airbus was created, one could never really have dreamt of. I mean, not just parity with Boeing, but beat Boeing on sales and research, etc., etc. How do you avoid, the company nearly slipped a couple of times, fasteners on wings and things like that, but you managed to pull it back. How do you avoid that complacency?
Well, I think we have plenty of problems to solve that keep us humble. And indeed, it's a good point to make, but we are not in that place. We have so much to deliver. We have so many programs. We have so much pressure from our customers to deliver faster the products they want. We're involved in new developments which come with their challenges. So, but that's also part of the job of the leadership of my job, to make sure that everybody keeps the head down and focusing on problems. We don't have time to be complacent.
The next major civil project will be, I mean, you might stretch the 220 or you might do this and that, but the next really big project will be a new short haul replacement for the 320, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
When will it fly?
So we will have to replace an aircraft that is a blockbuster, the most successful commercial aircraft in history. But this aircraft performed its maiden flight in 1987. So it's a platform that has been improved, that has been further developed over time, but we come to a point where a lot of technologies enable a significant step in performance, in fuel burn, in comfort of the passengers. So that's really something we're focused on. The aim is to, I will answer to your question, the aim is to launch the program by the end of this decade and enter into service the plane in the mid of the second half of the next decade.
Right, but what will it do? Because at the end of the day, it's the same sort of numbers in terms of passengers that it will carry. So how do you get the benefits from a completely rebuilt aircraft without doing a 737 MAX, stretching it, changing bits and changing things? Because you're talking about going back to the basic, going back to the drawing board.
No, basically we go to a new platform. So that's to the single aisle what the 350 has been for the wide bodies. It's a completely brand new platform designed from a blank sheet of paper, and you put all the technologies that you select for this platform. So you're not in the end of life of a product. On the contrary, you come to the beginning of life of a new one.
Do you believe that product will be able to be funded entirely by Airbus and its own funds, or will you have to go to member governments for, back to self-reliance, I suppose? Will you be seeking development funds for that?
Well, we are not at that point, and we are not in a situation where we need to find external fundings. The company can fund itself and is funding its own developments. Now we like to have risk-sharing partners in a development of that magnitude. And obviously, the most obvious risk-sharing partner or partners are the engine makers. They co-invest with us in the program, but we have other major suppliers. And we like as well to have the states having skin in the game in the way or the other. So we don't need funding, but we will be very happy to make sure that such a large project is not just the project of a company, but is the project of a large ecosystem.
Finally, there's a couple of minutes left. There are the two majors. Then you have Embraer, and you have a few others, and you have this, that, and the other, and you have the Chinese. Do you see the Chinese manufacturers becoming real competitors globally to you and Boeing in our lifetime for third-party country sales, third country sales?
Well, this is their ambition. The 919 is certified in China, is flying in China. We've seen large orders from major Chinese airlines already. And the aircraft is under certification process with the EASA in Europe. So obviously that's the ambition of COMAC and China to come to the party of civil aviation products, of civil aircraft, and we are taking them serious.
But that will, of course, the geopolitical difficulties will really hinder any prospects from them ever selling into the West. US, China, EU, China. But we'll never know, because if you just look at the latest EU-China trade deal, the UK-China trade deal, that could all change. Is that a concern? Not a concern.
As we said before, no complacency. And there is so much demand that there is probably room for other players. So COMAC is coming. COMAC has a product. They're very much depending on the Western supply chain. That's quite obvious, and it will take time for this to disappear. But the best way to be protected against an emerging competitor is to keep investing, to keep developing your products, and to stay ahead in terms of technology and offerings.
Final question. Project Sunrise, the flight from London, New York to Sydney with the A350,000 with its extra, what do you call it?
We call it the ULR.
When will it fly?
Project Sunrise. It will fly very soon. And in a few years, you will be able to fly with Qantas very, very long distances commercially.
Will you be on it?
Of course I will.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.